Hey guys, it's Old Man G here, back again with a late video actually for Red Devil Studios, and today we're going to talk about Neymar to Manchester United, or certainly opening the door to a move to Manchester United. Um, so as most of you are probably already aware, it's pretty obvious that Neymar wants to leave PSG. Um, it's the worst kept secret. He didn't turn up for pre-season training at PSG. Um, he's already expressed dissatisfaction with the club to the president of PSG. The PSG president has already come out and said he said he wants to be part of the project. We don't want to keep people, don't want to be here. Blah blah blah. There's this tension in his stomach, and Neymar just basically just wants to leave. He doesn't want to be involved in the PSG project anymore. And that's interesting because there's another question to be had as to whether the PSG project actually worked, because PSG spent 200 million to get Neymar, and now a few years down the line they want him sold. So it's a bit interesting to see did this project actually work in the first place. But anyway, that's a separate matter. Um, the general gist of what I'm saying is that Neymar wants to leave PSG. Um, his ideal preference is obviously to go back to Barcelona. I think it's obvious, we all know now that what the reports say. However, Barcelona have just spent 102 million or so to get Antoine Griezmann from Atletico Madrid. Um, just put them quite a bit. They have yet to offload, as far as I'm aware, any significant signings. Although I think Coutinho and potentially Dembele are rumored. Certainly Coutinho is, who wants to move back to Liverpool. So perhaps if they were to sell those two players, or maybe give one of those players to PSG, they might be able to get Neymar back. But so far anyway, they can't afford him, and so according to sources, Sky Sports UK and Deportivo Mundo, which is a Spanish newspaper, Neymar's basically just opened the door and said basically to most of the top teams in Europe, come and get me, basically. So that includes Juventus, Bayern United, because those are the teams that can actually afford to get Neymar. Um, United probably, I would argue, being the biggest one, because Madrid have already spent quite a bit of money themselves. Juve have, Bayern maybe not so much, but in terms of clubs that could afford to actually get Neymar, Manchester United is one of them. And there's almost been a shout from um, uh, the camp, or Neymar's camp, that this is the um, I want to basically go anywhere but stay at PSG. It's really as simple as that. Now, realistically, Manchester United are playing in the Europa League, and this is one of the disadvantages that we've had all transfer windows. That can we attract players to come to Manchester United when we're playing in the Europa League instead of the Champions League? Because of course, a lot of the top players want to play in the Champions League, and we only have Europa League football. So that's negative. The other thing could obviously be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's experience being another thing, and just where Manchester United are in terms of a rebuild, etc. So while it's possible that Neymar could go to Manchester United, I would imagine that if all the other clubs that I've mentioned, Barcelona, Bayern, Juventus, etc., bid for Neymar, he'd probably have preference to those teams. The only thing, like I said, is that it's just affordability. I doubt Juventus can afford to spend the money that PSG want from them without giving them substantial players. Barcelona again would probably have to offload one or two players to even consider it. Bayern probably could, but I'm not. Bayern don't seem to be a club that tend to spend that amount of money on just one player. That's not what they seem to do. And United can, but we supposedly have a maximum transfer budget of maybe 200 million or so of stuff, and I think United as well have to sell players. Um, I think if Neymar's agent said he was available to Ed Woodward or to the camp, then maybe they would consider it. But considering that previous reports of a Pogba Neymar switch, which will link to this video as well, that Manchester United reportedly declined a Pogba Neymar switch, I'm not sure whether the board hierarchy are keen on Neymar coming to Old Trafford. To be honest, I think that Neymar's antics off the field and on the field can be quite disruptive. I also think that because he wants to be the star man of the club, I think that would cause this uh, dis disunity, disharmony in the dressing room. He needs a big ego to be managed. You know, like someone like a Zidane could probably do it, but not a lot of other managers I think could. Um, and yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I think that he doesn't fit the United style way, and probably Ollie probably thinks that as well. And then there's just the fact that he plays off the wing, um, or can come inside obviously as number 10, or outright. But the point is that like that isn't a Pogba replacement. You know, Pogba is an attacking midfielder. Neymar is not an attacking midfielder. Neymar is older than Pogba, and probably more expensive than Pogba. So, you know, if we were to go for that sort of deal, we don't have the funds. Sorry, to we certainly wouldn't have the funds to get a replacement, a positional replacement for poor Pogba. And I think that's quite significant, especially if you listen to my review on the previous match, our win against Leeds, where Paul Pogba was immense. You know, and when Paul Pogba was on his day, he can be a very, very good midfield player and one of the best in Europe. But he needs good players around him, and he needs that consistency. And to take him out of that, you don't really bring in high quality midfielders who can really replace that. Whereas, you know, and if we look at transfer priorities, I don't think Manchester United's biggest priorities, the impression I get, is another forward player or winger player, unless Lukaku leaves. But even then, it looks like they might just go ahead with Greenwood and Chong. Um, and but you know, a go ahead is, you know, we need to get a centre back, we need to get a tag midfielder. Yeah, so that's about it, guys. And please like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. What do you think? Would you want Neymar at Manchester United? Do you think he's a bit much of a troublemaker and would actually bring more disunity or disharmony, or do you think it's a massive signing? We need to make these types of statement signings to progress and be a big club. Would you want to see a Pogba Neymar swap deal, if that was still on the table, or do you think that we should just outright just bid him and get him, or do you think the money is just better spent elsewhere? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Like I said, guys, please like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Click that notification button so you get notified of the latest video news. Follow us on Twitter at WeAreUnitedX. Have a nice evening, guys, and cheers.